We are on
day.
two very different journeys right now. Friends, I occasionally work at a local bar just for funsies because I teach online and it helps my heart. But it was so hot, and the bar is in a like 1930s house. It's very
It's
cute.
so cute. Everybody, if you go to Charlotte, it's an adorable bar.
Yeah.
I love it a lot.
Shout out No to Company Store. It's adorable. I drink there when I'm not there, but it's the level of heat and cold that happens in that place. How did these people in the third? I mean, this sounds stupid, but how did they survive a southern summer?
I think
I could survive the winter because like you just bundle up, but like there was no escape. Like my back is liquid. Like there is no escaping.
I don't think I could survive the winter. And I'm a winter, like I come from winter, you know, like, but I'm telling you, without heat.
It makes me feel like I'm going like this, which y'all can't see, but it's like just sinking into my chair. Like it was so hot and people were running. So the thing is in the spring, at least the southern spring, is that what hits first isn't the heat so much as the humidity. So we probably had like 90 something percent humidity today. And so it's that sort of, you know, you watch southern films and everyone looks like they've got glycerin on their face. That's because it's so humid.
It's so humid. Humidity. It gets humid. It gets very humid in Florida, but it hasn't quite gotten like it's hot, but it's not quite the humidity yet. But it's in the 70s humidity, the percentage.
Yeah, like it's just 70s. It'll probably be better now because it's nighttime, but like the temperature's in the 80s, which is fine. Like, I mean, it's just you start getting humidity over like 50% and 60%, and your whole you just
melt. You just go outside and you're immediately wet.
And everyone coming in was like just wet. And also the pollen hit really hard. So I think the thing for Georgia, it comes slower because our winters are shorter. In North Carolina, you definitely get like a real winter. But then when it hits, you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the South again. I don't care how many New York transplants are here. It is the South. Like, and when it hit, and then everyone comes in, because as I've said, there's a lot of northern people who live in Charlotte. They come in with a look of like fear. What is happening to me? And it's also pollen everywhere. So they're sneezing and they're scratching and they're sweating. And they're like, and it's almost like doing some sort of like anthropological documentary. They come in and they're like, what's happening to us? And I'm like, I mean, this is sort of what you signed up for. I don't know what else to say. Like, welcome.
Right? I mean, it is. I hate the humidity. I'm a dry weather person. Like humidity and I are not compatible. And I really learned this first when I lived in Scotland because you don't think about it because it's cold in Scotland, but it is still humid. But what I would freak out because like you're cold, you're bundled up, you're wearing 18 different layers, and yet you're also sweating. But it's not sweat; it's the humidity
because it's just perpetually damp.
It's just perpetually damp, and I could not function. I was just constantly like, "What do I do? How do you people live just being wet all the time?"
Just get really good shoes. Apparently, I don't know what I did. I was there for a while, and then I come here, and it's still surprising. You know. It's still surprising to me. It's just like, it was so hot, Christina. It was so hot for so long. It was just no release. There's no wind. That's the thing. So it's just the Scots have a phrase called close to describe humidity. It feels close outside. And I always think that's like the best way to describe it because it does feel like you're being wrapped in an unwanted hug forever. That never ends.
Yeah. Like, yes. Like, it's like I know that no one is touching me, but somehow also I feel like everyone is touching me.
I was working with one of my pals and I was like, something's on me, something's on my leg, something's on my leg. He goes, you're sweating on your leg. Because he just like looked down and was like, you're freaking out about nothing. I was like, it's on me, it's on me, it's on me. And he goes, no, it's your own sweat. Gross. I'm a gross human, but also whatever. Welcome to Theology on the Rocks, guys, where today we made two different drinks. Just today, I think because of the limoncello and the working, it resulted in two different drinks.
There's a series of events that happen. It starts with that I couldn't make a decision.
I know this is going to come as a surprise to everyone who listens. Anytime that I say, Christy, you have to pick one, because she'll pick them all.
Also, not shockingly, is that this is a thing that Heather said to me during my PhD. You have to pick.
It's not your
So I couldn't pick.
Neither is grading while being on Marco Polo. But that's for another day.
That's for another day. So I sent Leah, I think, 7 options of drinks, and then
I said Jen, to be fair.
You said one of the gin ones, and I said okay, and I picked one of the gin ones, but I just picked it by the name, and I think
so. I did the name, and you did the gin.
You did a vodka one.
Well, they have the same name. I just picked the first one that said that name. So
yeah,
I had gin and vodka. I could have gone either way. So we'll put them both up. I mean, I don't know how they taste. I haven't tasted it yet.
We'll put them both up. Yeah, I haven't tasted mine either. I'm a little I wish I was drinking yours, because I remember thinking, oh, this one sounds good, but I'm interested in this one too. So we'll put them both up there. It's a book that I have of cocktails that were inspired by various female activists and leaders. And
so here's to the Annas. That's what
generally
we should call that.
Here's to the Annas. Yes, I like it. We found a title. Here's to the Annas. So yes, so cheers.
So mine has vodka, quite a lot of vodka, I might add. And
mine has quite a lot of gin.
Lemon juice, vanilla, simple syrup, which I borrowed from the bar, and then
nice
egg whites I will never do. So we just ignore that because I think that's weird. And I have an egg. I have eggs. All I can smell right now is the vanilla.
Mine has gin and vermouth and orange bitters. And we know that I don't love vermouth, so cheers.
It's a little heavy on. It's good. Mine's a little heavy on the vanilla, but I think it's helping with the lemon juice. Oh, the burn happens. There's the burn. Because I didn't taste the liquor, and you know how it just hits like right there.
Yep, this actually in your chest, and you're like,
there she is. I took a big old gulp, and I was like, oh, that doesn't even taste like alcohol, and then it's just like a fireball right in your breast socket.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, this is actually pretty good. I'm not mad about this at all. So good job to the Annas. Here's to the
Annas, whoever you are.
Whew. Oh my goodness.
Whew. It's gonna give you heartburn. I'm so old. I'm so mad about it. Talk to me.
You have to take your daily heartburn medicine like I do.
I just don't do it, but I drink a lot of very citrusy things. Anyway, so today has been a very pretty day, though, although it's going to turn cold again next week. But I think that's probably the last we'll have of the cold.
I agree. I think that's our last reprieve from the Florida heat that is coming quickly and ferociously.
And I currently have my books to send to various parts of the world for... Hey,
you know what? I want to give you a proper public congratulations and well-deserved to your book being nominated for
the International Society of Science and Religion, which who'd have thought?
Yes. Who'd have thought? But you know what? It's well-deserved. It's a great book. I really love it. Bad Theology and COVID, your most recent one. So y'all, if you haven't looked into it, and you can always reach out to us for the details on getting it. We'll put it up in the links too, but it's a really fantastic book. But she was nominated for an award.
We're going to give it out at AAR, so it's a condolence. It's a condolence. Yeah. One, we get to go to the Science and Religion. I say we, you're my date. We get to go to the Science and Religion reception, but also, which we know is Christy, it may be taking the place of the Scottish reception. They have food.
Look, no, but here's the thing. We go to the science one first.
We do.
And we get the food and the drinks. And then you go to the Scottish one last, because that's where the party ends. I feel like the Scottish reception is the
party ends when Leah drinks too much red wine and can't remember people she meets anymore. That's when the party. And then I go find the Alamo.
Like, let's go find the Alamo. What are we going to find in Boston? It's going to be fantastic.
Take me to the harbor. Wait, no, the Boston Tea Party. I want to shove some Teslas in the harbor. It'll be amazing.
It's going to be fantastic. Well, I'm very excited. I'm going to cheer for you while you win your award.
Thank you. Well, fingers crossed. I submitted a paper to AR Boston about, one that I knew would certainly not get accepted, which had a curse word with Carl Burt in it. And then there was another one that they rejected that role early on. But then there was another one that I thought I really was very excited for, and it was Religion and Pop Culture, and there's the 20th anniversary of Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I was going to talk about Marcella Althouse Reed and the fetish boot stuff, and that, which I thought actually was pretty, and I have a lot of like autoethnography to go along with that, and I thought it would be really cool.
It was a great paper. I am genuinely
sorry, I am
upset.
interrupting you with just the word.
Sorry, no, I'm
just the word
I.
Keep going. I'm like a parrot. I usually have a good idea of, well, sometimes I don't, but most of the time I can kind of gather. I'm guessing because it was Religion and Pop Culture. They had about 4 or 5 different like areas, I think. Rocky Horror was one of them.
They did, yeah.
And I'm wondering if there just wasn't enough interest in that for it to be like a coherent panel thing. Because pop culture, I mean, that's a toughie to me, that group.
I will also tell you that my submission to the Religion and Pop Culture section also got rejected. Pop culture people have rejected.
Well, you know what?
Us. We are not.
I'll just wear my boots to your event anyway. How about that? I had it all done up that I was gonna go on this like redemption tour of the Scottish Reception, but I was like, but what if I have the Rocky Horror thing and I have to be in like fishnets at the same time? It's gonna go down so well.
But I feel like this is the correct time for us to put out into the world that we've decided you're going to form a panel on Rocky Horror for Theology Beer Camp instead. So Trip, start saving a space for us because Leah's going to have a panel.
I am, and I'm going to do like, yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
We'll take some initial, just like if you're interested. Dressing up is not required, but it's strongly encouraged. It's Rocky Horror. I mean,
always, yeah.
But there's so much stuff you could talk about, like, you know, in terms of that. So we're gonna do that. We do have our Hot Ones thing, and then you know whatever else we get.
We're just taking
it's
over.
Now called Theology on the Rocks Camp, which
it's called. We're the podcast most obviously associated with.
And then it's just a pair of boobs. Is the icon. You try to do your sci-fi fantasy, it's just going to be boobies. Just boobies.
Here's what I have to say, though. Because the theme this year, which I am so excited about, is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And this is one of my all-time favorite movies. But you remember that scene with the women, the virgins, who attack the knight and they try to have sex with them?
Is this in the Holy Grail?
I feel like
I don't. It's been a minute. Like, but please tell me all about it.
He accidentally, one of the knights of the Round Table, I can't remember which one, stumbles accidentally upon a convent of nuns, and they all want to have sex with him, and they like are basically like trying to, and he is freaking out, and it's hilarious. But I feel like it's an easy correlation to Rocky Horror because it's the same idea, right? He gets taken, the nuns are trying to sleep with him. Rocky gets Brad and Janet and tries to sleep with them. It's the same story. It's just,
I think you've already got your paper, Christy. So I think it's done now.
We've done it. Yeah. Here's how these two
and I'll talk.
Relate.
Yeah, I'm gonna still do my Marcella stuff, and it'll be great. So if you're interested, please send us a message. Being on that panel.
Yeah. If you're interested, also please send Homebrewed Christianity.
Please do, because we actually haven't asked if we can do this yet. So I feel like it's an anniversary. Like, come on. I think it's 20 years.
I know, it's an important.
No, that doesn't make sense at all because we were old.
20 years is not long enough.
We are so 50 then. 50? Some anniversary.
50 years, which is not okay.
I ID'd someone at the bar today and they were born in 2000. And I was like, I'm not okay.
They're not even like,
no, they're well on their way.
The worst part.
She had a baby face, but she was hardened. She was like, I got this. She's like, give me a lager. I was like,
did she say thanks for IDing me still? Because that's gonna be the real killer.
She just sort of laughed, and then I went and I sort of ominously said, well, just remember one day they'll stop. This is why I love that.
When was the last time you got ID'd?
And she just was like, okay, cool.
she
doesn't, but I'm like, look at
she thinks it's gonna,
one day they'll stop. One day they'll stop. Except my face and my hair are telling two different stories right now. My face is like 13 and my hair is like 85. Anyway, I'm adorable.
I accidentally you are. You are. So I went to the store today and I got this like tube
Hmm.
of eye patches. They're like
Oh.
caffeine eye patches to make your what I call the
Um,
PhD bags less large. And I accidentally put two on each eye. So I was really going for it today. Like, do your work.
I had to go back to buying the stuff that people bought. What is that 3-part set? It's like Proactive. I bought Proactive. And I never did in high school or middle school or anything. And then when I'm 42,
No.
I buy a Proactive and it bleaches everything. And I put it on my face and I'm like, if this isn't going to do it, I don't know what else to do except to just start scraping my face off. Like, I mean, like, this is literally taking the color off of towels. What, you know,
It is the most intense face stuff I used it. There was a period when I was like in my late 20s, early 30s that my skin went kind of haywire and I was using Proactive and I remember being like, like what am I putting on my skin right now? It
Zero
is
tried to lick my
intense.
face, and I went, "No!" And Zero goes, "What?" And I was like, I don't know the science, but I don't feel like it's good.
I don't feel like
Right.
they should eat this.
So yes, I'll be at Boston, and we'll be going to that stuff, and be drinking white wine this time around, and then beer camp. We have our things, and then whatever else we're needed, we'll be there. And today we thought we might talk about this. I usually tie it up a little bit better, but I'm tired and I'm sweaty, so it's not happening. And I'm drinking vodka straight out the gate.
And also she's got a
Well, because
blanket
I go
wrapped around her
inside.
sweater or
This
her
is, you know,
shoulders.
this from being in Florida. This is Southern 101. You go inside and it's frosty.
You're cold.
And then you're like, and then everything. I am just really selling myself today. I'm going to definitely get a second husband out of this episode. Anyway, okay. So today we just like, today it's not you listeners. It's me. It's us. It's us.
It's
Today we decided we were going to talk about
well, we don't usually
expertise,
record.
and it's because Christy and I started having a lot of times we choose topics based on like what we keep having conversations about, and it kind of started out actually with that science and religion thing, because I was like, man, that's a group. I've definitely like been in the political theology group. I've been in practical theology group, and certainly history circles, and other bits and bobs. But the science and religion was always, we had it at Edinburgh as a separate sort of subject. So, we had a bunch, it was a huge department, but it was kind of its own little section. That's where I met Trip, actually. He was in that. Trip,
Yeah.
Sarah Lane Ritchie, Mark Harris. They were all in that sort of group. And so I never really felt like I did anything with that. I always kind of make jokes about science. Not like, haha, science, but like, then I don't do it. In this book, I do realize, I'm just like, well, I don't know what the science is behind it. But this book, I realized, I actually do talk quite a bit. I would say the history of these illnesses and things and like that. And and the theology associated with it. So I thought, okay, and my mom's a nurse. I do actually have a degree in science. I have a bachelor's of science in psychology. I have a degree in a form of, although someone call it soft science.
Soft science, yeah. But I mean, I think as one who got to peer review your book, I do feel like it was a good history of science. I mean, it's covering obviously reactions to disease, but it's also covering a lot of like concerns about disease and spread and like the ways we deal with disease and stuff like that. So it's like that is still part of it. And I read an article recently about how we need to stop kind of assuming that there's this massive divide or canyon between the humanities and the sciences, because they can serve each other as well. The sciences, like the article I was reading was talking about the humanities in specific, but it mentioned that like a lot of medical doctors are being required to have certain classes in the humanities, not just to help with their bedside manner, but also because it helps them to understand aspects of science better. And so like, it is something that's very compatible.
Yeah, it's a very sort of enlightenment divide that I always say to place something. Well, let me start with this. The enlightenment divide, I think, we basically created a system in opposite. So the idea is that we put, at least in, I will say, quote, Western culture, is that we put religion on a pedestal and science advancements were happening. And then during the Enlightenment, people are like, well, clearly bleeding a demon out of someone isn't working. How about we try this? Which is totally quite right. But I think what happened is that we created the opposite system, is that we just say, like, well, science is the king of the science. Theology, well, sorry, practical theology was the king of the queen of the
queen of the
sciences. Yeah.
sciences. Yeah.
But now it's become this thing where all is it's just science. And I get that, because the dangers of not having science be at the top is that you get a return to let's bleed you out, which because demons are inside of you, which we're very close to getting back to that world.
Right.
It feels like
I mean, we're definitely
we're on the way back to that world.
and I would
So
prefer not
it's not about the
Yeah.
advancements in either or. It's just to say that certain disciplines serve you in different ways at different times. Like, I'm not going to go to the doctor and ask him to pray over me during my annual physical. I'm going to be like, do your doctor bet, But working in the hospital, when people were nearing the end of life, they didn't want their medical doctor, if they knew they were kind of on the way out. They wanted me as a chaplain. So it's one of those things where I think at different stages, that's why we have these disciplines within science and humanities, is that we're touching on all the different aspects of what it means to be human. And to put things into a hierarchy, I think, is reactionary. Actually, I think we're reacting against what they were fighting for the Enlightenment. And I totally get that. But also, I think in a way it's sort of said, because science stuff happens in science that we don't get, and
well, and also I feel like it's really important to keep in mind that science isn't some like holy grail of unbiased.
See what you did there.
There's a
Holy
ton
grail.
of bias that happens.
See what you
Holy
did there.
grail. Yeah, no, scientists still have bias, and scientists are still going to perform experiments with that bias. And if you don't know what that is, and you don't know how to examine your own bias, you assume things about science that aren't actually true either, and we have a lot of examples about how that went very badly in different stages as well. And so having the ability to understand that there's literally no study that is some kind of in an isolated bubble of purity, in which human desires and flaws and stuff aren't going to affect it. And if we understand that, then we can understand better how to address those things, And
100%.
So I think what your book does really well is to talk about that. Like, here's ways that people, in their desire for these aspects of religion, did not appropriately or like religiously well deal with these diseases, which is a good reminder to us of like, how are we allowing various religious beliefs to affect our understanding?
Yeah, because one of the pandemics I talk about, that's a great example of what you're just saying, is HIV/AIDS. So when you think about that historically, I certainly looked at stuff historically and like sociologically and theologically. I did not look at it like medically, so don't worry about that.
Right. Yeah, no, we're not doing science.
Doing science.
We're
I'm
aware.
talking about science. So, but yeah, the HIV/AIDS was interesting because you had the theological community, which was honestly at the very beginning wildly unsupportive of this group, because they saw it as being something that affected only, really in the beginning, gay men. It was sort of a disease related to that.
Right.
But then what you also see is the scientific community was not super interested in it either, in terms of doing testing and things like that, because it was gay men. It was this sort of quote minority group. Well, it doesn't have to be quote. I think it probably was a minority group in the United States, at least. And
yeah.
But you see both worlds there that are doing a disservice to this community. And it was only until you started to get people who were either women or straight or famous people, we can think of those, that it started to become more in the mainstream. Well, then all of a sudden, theology definitely held their ground of certain denominations, but then certain denominations were like, no, like, we're here for you, to support you. Because some scientists were like, we're not going to spend money on research grants for this small of a population. And then others, opened it up. So I think it's one of those things where if we look at that, that's an example of a disease that was basically misappropriated by multiple communities, multiple different areas of study, until they started protesting, and before it became honestly what they would call an epidemic, at least. that people started saying, "Oh, okay, well then
Yeah.
we'll." But in the beginning, that was not the case at all. And so I think the sensationalization definitely leans into the theology stuff, because you get the preachers that are like, "You're going to hell. Like, this is an abomination. This is why you do that. That's what's going to happen." And the scientists don't get that sort of criticism. But then you look at a lot of these pandemics, and they probably should get a little of that, because they were also not
They
running
should,
to
yeah.
find a cure, I will say, because it's very money
Right.
based. I mean, at least in the post Enlightenment, if we're talking pre Enlightenment, sure, religion took it and was like, "You got the demons in you," But then you take it post Enlightenment, it's money driven, at least for a lot of the science
Yeah.
people. And if the money is not talking or it's not there, then it doesn't.
It's money driven and
Yeah.
it's power driven, I mean, we could even look at, like, not to be super extreme about it, but the Nazis were doing scientific experiments. It's just like, do we want that to happen? No, we don't, because the kinds of things they were
Oh
doing
yeah.
were horrific. And so, yeah, like, I think it's wise of us to think about the ways that science, as the poster says, science can bring back the T-Rex, the
Well, it might be a
humanity's
bad
might
idea,
it's a
right?
bad
And it's a
idea,
funny. There's a
It's a
but
funny
it's
poster, but
true.
it's
I passed
accurate.
a street in Charlotte, a very prominent street called Tuskegee Street. And when I passed it, I remember the first
Yeah.
time I saw it was with Stuart, and I just went, "No." And then he goes, "What?" Because he didn't know the story. He was from Scotland, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Strap in." And if you don't know the story about
Strap in, let's
Tuskegee,
tell you.
please go look at that. But they were doing experiments on African American, I think, men, yeah, with
Mostly,
like
yeah.
STDs and things like that. I mean, it was horrific.
There's been, I mean, and we have a humongous amount of history about doing experiments on Black men and women in the US, but also on people with
Mm.
disabilities. The ways that eugenics comes in and says, like, let's just try to get rid of people with disabilities, things like that, So there's a whole bunch of, like, important ways that we can think about why it's important for us to think through the human side of science as well as
And
the other,
also
the actual science of
what
it.
subjects we decide to take on and which ones we don't. You and I have that convo a lot. So you did your
Mhm.
PhD on systematics, theology, practical stuff, but also trauma and literature. You can tell me if that's wrong.
Yes.
And then I did mine on Northern Ireland theology, reconciliation, violence, and politics and history. Essentially, that was my thing.
Mhm.
It's a UK
Yeah.
PhD, so it's going to be like 5 million things. So those topics I feel super comfortable, and the American South to a large degree. I feel very comfortable talking about stuff related to that. Now, if someone wanted to bring up something like uh, Tennessee Williams, I probably would get Christy on and be like, "Yeah, come help me with." If someone starts talking about
Right.
Derrida, I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
God, here we go." Right.
Difference.
Right.
Difference.
So there is, we have limitations. That's why you surround yourself with people who can help you. But at
Yes.
what stage do you not touch a subject? And I think Christy and I talked about this with world religions. We both teach world religions very much. I'm teaching actually in a master's class on world religions in the fall. Just remind me. Somebody send me an email.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, so I'm doing that. But it's funny because I was talking about this yesterday to a group of people, including Christy. And I said, who actually is qualified to teach world religions? Like, and I know that there's some people who do comparative religion and theories of religion or sociology of religion that would claim that. But, every religion or a lot of religions,
Certainly, yeah.
like, I mean, I would consider myself an expert in Christianity. That's why I write my books from a Christian perspective. I did not talk about bad theology and Sikhism because nope, not going there.
Right.
Don't know about that. But
Right. Yeah.
so what do you think? Do you think that there are people that just do world religion, like all of them, to become experts in all of them?
I think that, yeah, I think there's a couple of things, because I've thought about this a lot, especially in light of my career. When I was at my last institution, I worked in a theology department. And so all of us were, supposed to be there to teach exclusively religion classes, essentially. But we all had our specific areas. So there was an Old Testament scholar and a New Testament scholar, there was a systematic theologian, there was a political theologian, there was a practical theologian, there was a church historian. I'm not including myself at this point because I hadn't done a PhD yet, so I was like filling in wherever I could, but I had done my master's in systematic theology. So, but like, and the thing that I appreciated so much about this is that we could all legally, or in terms of accreditation, we could all teach whatever classes we wanted, right? Because we had enough, what the accreditation bodies are looking for in terms of your graduate level work, we had enough credits in the fields that like I could have taught New Testament, or, you know, the Old Testament scholar could have taught New Testament or theology or whatever. But we were very aware that those weren't our specialties. And so anytime that I had to talk about the Old Testament, I would go to him, you know, and we would do that kind of stuff where we were always seeking each other out to help with the areas that we were most expert in, or the areas that other people were more expert than we were in, and things like that. And now that I'm at a state school, that doesn't exist, right? Like I am one of literally, there's 3 of us that are full-time that teach religion. We only teach world religions. That's the only class that we have at this school in terms of religions. On the other part of me is always interacting with the humanities in general and literature in specific. And so like in terms of who I'm around now, yes, I am the most qualified to talk about Sikhism, but I would never be a Sikh expert, right? Like I'm not that person.
And you,
I have enough ability to teach this level of world religions, but like, and I'm sure you get these too, like publishers will just send random, not good publishers, but like other publishers will just send random, like, do you want to write a world religions textbook? And I'm like,
nope.
I sure don't. I am not the person to do that. Like, that is not my
Yeah.
job.
I think it has a lot to do with your institution. I think you're right for that.
Yeah. Like where you're at is really going to affect what you're teaching. But simultaneously, we also, I think, for the most part, academics are very aware of what our own fields are, right? Like you're a practical theologian, and I know that not just because you tell me a lot, but like also.
Well, guys, if you haven't heard,
like,
strap in, as I say.
settle in. But like you said, like if somebody asked you a question about Tennessee Williams or like Southern literature in general, you could talk about it in some respects, but you could also be like, hey, my friend Christy is a
Having
literature
resources.
expert. She could talk about this better. You know, like, so we know how to do this in different like levels. We know how to dip our toes into other fields and be respectful about it because we're good academics. And that's not necessarily always true. There are a lot of academics out there who just decide that they want to do something that they're not trained to do. And I'm not going to name specific names right now, but I will cough it out.
I prided myself on at Edinburgh. We had a religious studies subject area that was different from the theology and ethics stuff and different from the Bible stuff. There was a lot of, it was very Christian heavy at Edinburgh Shark. But I loved it because on their world religions class, their equivalent, they would bring me in to teach the Christianity part. And I felt so privileged because I was like, they're like, no, you're not one of the crazy ones, basically. And I was like, yay, I'm not one of the crazy ones. But I taught one section. You know, I taught Christianity on that. And then, yeah, you go to a liberal arts school in the US and they're like, okay, well, you're teaching everything now. And I'm like, or I applied for a job I'll never forget because I met the guy later who was like, we wanted to give you the job, but they asked me the question. They were like, do you do Bible? And I was like, I said, I know I don't do that. That's not what I do. Because in the world that I'd been living in, which was Scotland and Edinburgh, Bible people did Bible. That's what Bible people did. They did their own. But in liberal arts schools, that was, you did Bible. And technically, Kirsty's seen my transcripts because we applied all the same jobs. I have enough credits in Bible. I went to a Baptist. I mean, come on, Baptist. Like Bible. I have enough credits in Bible to teach Bible. Now, do I feel great about it? Sure. I didn't undergrad.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly it. Yeah, like I am happy, and I feel very comfortable teaching world religions or Bible to undergraduates, right? I'm not going to go write books and try to claim that I am a Bible scholar suddenly. I'm not going to try to like, you know, supervise a Bible scholarship PhD or something.
It's a thin line there between being employable and then also respecting boundaries and saying like, because I wonder It's like
And I think
oh, go
that thin
ahead.
line I was just gonna say, I think that thin line is something that, again, we understand very, very acutely, and people outside of the field are just like, because, I don't know if your friends do this, but my friends will say sometimes, "Oh, she has a PhD in
Uh,
Jesus." And I
True.
don't because I'm not a New Testament scholar, but I have a friend who does, right? Like, but again, if you are like, "Hey, we need you to teach a New Testament class," I can. I have the skill set to do
Yeah.
it. I'm just not going to claim that kind of expertise
But
for
I think
myself.
too, and I talked about this as well yesterday, it's also about like being humble. And I think a lot of times in academia, it's a
Mhm.
tough gig in the sense of humility because you're taught on the one hand that you're the star of the show, but on the other hand, you have to have a
Yeah.
level of humility to not be a complete asshole about it.
Or you
Yeah,
should.
and but the thing is
Yeah.
there sometimes being an asshole gets rewarded, and so that's another thing. It's like you see a lot of
Mhm.
people who make a lot of money and who are on a lot of TV shows who get rewarded for that. So, but I think with Christy and I, we really didn't have a choice again because of who brought us up in this world. But I think you do have to have a level of
Yeah.
humility to be like, okay, well, I can absolutely teach this class and I can definitely write at a level on this, but I'm going to check it with my friends who are experts in this. I'm going to
Yeah.
send it
I'm
to
grateful.
right. And I'm going to have them
Mhm.
read it.
I think this is so important too, to know, like, again, I know how to utilize the sources that I have, right? And the sources that I have are friends and colleagues who are actually
Hmm.
experts. And again, so this places me at a very
Hmm.
privileged position in terms of, like, again, an undergrad student doesn't have those resources. And so we're not asking for like the whole world to be able to go and ask all of their expert scholarly friends in these areas, but simultaneously, we are saying, hey, if you're looking at somebody who's claiming to be an expert, you want to look at what kinds of things they're doing. Like you said, the humility and the knowledge of what it is that we're doing is so important in terms of how we speak with authority. And I think
Hmm.
that especially for us, women in a very male dominated field, other, women of color, black women, etc., like they're going to understand this even more. But there's a kind of, my friend and I were talking about this earlier today, like the audacity of white men to just think that they can be an expert in whatever they've kind of happened to be interested in that day, is because no one's ever really said to them, like, no, you can't. You have to work harder for this. And this is absolutely not true. I know lots and lots and lots of white men who are not like this, but there is a huge swath of them out there who will just start speaking as if they're experts on things and acting like they know so much, or like if you just talk loud enough, people will assume you're an expert, and then that starts to cloud our understanding of what it means to be an expert. And I think as a public, we have lost a lot of respect and also clear
Hmm.
boundaries on what expertise
Oh, 100.
means.
And I do think too as well I'm always about I think the reflective part is important
Hmm.
because I see this a lot in the circles that even I fly in, whether it's practical theology or, I make jokes about it because I'm aware of the silliness of but we see it, whether it's, whatever the newest thing, whether it's Bonhoeffer or process or whatever, like you can get so
Yeah.
stuck in this thing that you become the evangelical. You're like the new evangelical. You're the new thing. You're the thing that they were fighting against in the Enlightenment. And it's like, if
Yeah.
you have to be aware that, can I change the fact that I think practical theology is so super awesome? Absolutely not. Can I change the fact that I think everyone's doing practical theology and I'm a big snob about it? No. But I know that that's stupid. Like, I'm not stupid, but I know what I'm doing.
Self-aware.
Self-aware, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the thing is that if you're just like, "Well, if they don't believe this, then they're idiots." Okay, well, now you're an evangelical. Listen to yourself. That's what you are. You become that
Yeah.
thing.
Like we were talking about this with our friend, and I'm gonna shout him out because I think that he does a really good job of this. But Josh Patterson of Rethinking Faith, like he's trying so hard to learn, and he does a really good job of
Mhm,
learning, but he's not trying to
mhm.
place himself as that expert. And I think he knows a lot more than he
Yep,
gives
$100%.
himself
I
credit
agree.
for. But like it's that's the kind of humility that I think is so needed in terms of, here's the thing that I am an expert in. Again, like I know what I can do, what I am an expert in. I know and I'm confident in those skills. And if I need to, here are the things I can also do with the resources at my disposal, including like my abilities to research, my abilities to kind of cross certain disciplines, and then the sources in terms of like people that I
Yeah.
can go to, right? And then there's like, I'm not going to touch that with a
Yeah.
10-foot pole, right? I have no business speaking on, for instance, economics.
I was in my head trying to think what I have no business talking.
There's a specific reason that I'm saying economics, and it's because of I got a second rejection from AAR today, which is not one of the papers I submitted, but it was a panel I was potentially going to be on, but it was about economics.
I'm gonna put art. Mine's art. I have no business talking about art.
I have no business talking about economics. I understand economics at the same level as your average person, like generally, like your average
Right.
educated person. I have a degree. I took an economics class. Like I understand some
Sure.
things, but I am not capable of going.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to start a podcast about economics. I'm not
I'm
going to write
glad
a
because I
paper
wouldn't
about
be on
economics.
it if so.
I it would also be 5 seconds long because I feel
I'd be
like
like Karl Marx.
economics is about money and some stuff.
I'd be like Karl Marx, and then I'd be like liberation theology, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm back here again. Never mind. I came back home. So
Like and this is where I think that again, like I said, we've lost an understanding. So people think like, oh, I mean, I've seen jokes or memes about this, like your Google search is not equal to my doctorate. Like
woo.
I have a
Yeesh.
PhD in theology. Your Google search doesn't equal my doctorate, right? But you hear so much people saying like, well, I'm going to do my own research, or well, I listened to this podcast of these couple of dudes who just talk about whatever the hell they want to talk about. That's not expertise. Go listen to somebody who's an actual, like, learn from people who actually know, because it's a lot
You
of
would not go
work.
to the vet to get
Like,
your teeth done.
right. You wouldn't go to the vet to be like, hey, I have this sickness. You're a doctor. He's a vet. I'm sure he knows
He
a lot of
does.
things. He knows more than I do, but like,
He might know about teeth, but
don't do that.
I wouldn't.
He might clean my
Right.
dog's teeth, but
I
like
still wouldn't
still.
go there for that.
And I just feel like we believe that because we have the internet and we have the ability to look things up, we think that we become experts in these things. And in fact, that's not what expertise is. Like that's just not it. It's not just going to the internet and googling some stuff. It's not like finding accessible. It's reading detailed journals, using words you don't know. Like it's being part of a large, very long, probably centuries long
Right.
conversation.
I'm not thinking you're the
Like
first person to
there's
say
just
something. Like, I think that's a very
yeah.
important act of humility. Even if you're saying it in a different way, it doesn't necessarily, and
Mhm.
it doesn't take away from what you're doing at all. Like, even if you're not doing
No.
contemporary stuff, it doesn't matter. Like, you're doing your own thing in this generation. But it is acknowledging those who come before you and saying,
Yeah. And it's like I'm not trying to discourage people from trying to learn things outside of higher education either, because I think it's good for us to try to learn things, and I think it's good for us to be like, oh, I want to double check that this thing that I heard is correct. But maybe think about like just because I've read a book on something, or just because I double checked that statistic one time, I'm not going to start going around and arguing with people who have literal doctorates. I think about this sometimes with Hank Green. So Hank Green has like TikTok and all of this, and he talks mostly about science stuff, and it's like very entertaining. But he's had a problem of people tagging him in other people's TikToks and saying, Hank Green, is this true? And a lot of the times that person, the original TikTok, is like a woman who has a PhD in the subject. And instead of just believing that literal doctor, the person will be like, Hank Green, is this true? And Hank, to his credit, has been like, I am not the person to ask if this is true. Like, she's a doctor.
yeah,
She's a PhD in this sciencey thing.
Brian Cox.
And I'm just a dude who likes research stuff,
Brian Cox is my ultimate crush. Did you know that he was in a boy band? Have you seen Brian Cox? He's British.
No.
He's like
Yeah.
floppy haired. Probably like
I didn't know he was in voice.
he's probably like the floppy hair is expired, but he's like as fake expired as in like he's probably our age if not older. Like and he's still rocking the bowl cut or whatever. But he pops up on my stuff, probably because I have these conversations about Brian Cox. But he's a physicist. He talks a lot about black holes, and he was in a boy band. And I swear, every time he smiles, I'm like, Stuart, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm out. But most of the time, I have a friend too. I have no idea what he's talking about. But a lot of times he talks about stuff, and I'm like, because he's like, well, because it's sort of speculative in a way. And this goes back to our hierarchy thing is he'd be like, well, if you fell in a black hole, now we don't know because, no one has, / if they did, they didn't come back. But if you did, this would probably happen. And I'm like, I know how numbers work. I know how quantitative research and empirical research works, but no one's done it. So you can't even observe it. You can't use your observing methods to observe it. But he starts talking and I believe him. Whatever he says, I believe him. If he says there's a black hole and that if you fall in this, that you're just going to explode 5 ways a Sunday, I'd be like, yep, I got it. But the other thing too is that it's not just him, but I have a friend who is a PhD in math in North Carolina. And I told him one time, I had a few lines. And I said, you know that math is mostly made up? Because I took a class, I kid you not, Christy, in college, which was just a dummies class, and I know it. It was math for the liberal arts. And it was
Yes, I took math for elementary ed majors.
Love it. Any way to get out of that situation was good.
Anyway,
I then had to take stats for my psychology degree, which was horrendous. But anyway, I took that class, and I had a friend who went to Georgia Tech who took my book to Georgia Tech to mock me over the math for liberal arts, but that's fine. Anyway, I told him one time, because it's the history, it was basically the history of math, how math developed. And so I told him, I said, you know that math is just made up, right? Someone just made that. It's like the Trinity thing, Christy, but imagine your reaction about the Trinity times 4 million zillion. He said, what do you mean? And I was like, well, yeah, sure, you got the same patterns over and over. Cool. But you still made up the system of math. People made it up. And he was he goes, and I said, it just happened. It works. Yeah, I get that. And Christy, I thought was going to light my brain on fire with kerosene.
You told me this story years ago, and then you told me that you just tell people that you don't believe in math.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. It's fun. It's fun. You should see it.
I made that my entire personality.
I'm glad.
I mean, truly from then on. So I tell my students every semester, I tell them that I don't believe in math, and their faces are amazing.
I think math is it's such a good one because you're not saying
all of a sudden they're starting to question. They're like, should I trust this woman to be my professor?
100%.
Because she just said the most insane thing 100%. I've ever heard in my life.
Because you're going against the Enlightenment thing because you teach religion. So you're being like, well, you know what? I don't believe in your whatever. But you're not saying science.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a joke, but you're not saying science, which I think is important. You're saying math.
Yeah.
And all their little brains are like, well, math is important. Is it? Did we not just make it all up?
Is it
real? Which clearly everything's important, but it is a funny little joke. So I keep saying that to this particular human, and it is really my life's joy, to be fair, to be able to say that.
It's the most fun thing. Listeners, if you ever meet us, we will say this to you and we won't even think twice about it.
But it's funny because I think part of it is our reaction against people telling us that what we do is not real.
It's 100% because how many times, it's almost every single time I talk to somebody and they find out what I do and then they say immediately, well, I don't believe in God. Okay, cool.
I mean, those billions of people around the world don't, so we still got a job. So it's just, it's that.
I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't believe in religion. It's mostly when they say I don't believe in religion, I'm like, you know that religions exist, though.
They just
you could not believe in God.
It's a play on that.
But religion
you do you, baby girl. We're not saying you do you, but it still is it's been a thing and it'll be a thing. Mm-hmm. It may change its face and what it looks like, but it's been going since people have been existing as far as the cave paintings tell us. So we can't, so quit saying religion. I don't believe it. Yeah, of course you don't. Then that's fine.
I don't believe in religion.
I don't believe in math, if you want to really pull it out. And then,
it's my favorite thing.
Yeah, well,
The only other thing that topped it was the time that I told my student that time isn't real.
Oh God.
And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Time's not real. A lot of religions don't believe that time is real." And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah, time's not real." And he literally like just put all of his things down and was like, "I can't listen to you talk anymore." I was like, "Time's not real."
He's like, well, it doesn't matter. Then our class is over. That's what I would have said. Bye.
The class, I was like, "Well, okay. I mean,
I'd walk right out.
time's not real, but your homework is."
Your homework is. That's right. That's right. Yeah, it is just a play on that. I mean, I think it is an interesting thing is that, and I think stuff is starting to shift a little bit about how we view. It's not always a good thing, but I think how we value certain things, I think is making a little bit of a shift. Right? I think we're in a weird time. Of course, we are, y'all. We know, but it is.
We all know.
Our point of sort of reference is shifting. And I will say, as a theologian, I'm not necessarily happy about it shifting. No, let me rephrase that. I'm not at all happy about it shifting away from the science realm or the STEM realm. Like, it doesn't bring me joy to see like people being like, science doesn't matter. I find that upsetting to an nth degree. But I do think it is, and I'm not sure what we do with it.
I feel like what I wish was, and what I've always wished was that we could understand that studying and knowledge and education is always inherently valuable, regardless of what you're studying. And so I've always wished that the humanities could have the same amount of respect as the sciences, but I've always wanted to elevate the respect of the humanities, not decrease the respect of the
100%.
sciences.
That's a great way to put it, Christy. Yes, that.
We're doing it incorrectly.
Like the Enlightenment was fine, but it also just, why don't we just respect that there's a.
Why don't we have respect for all of them instead of needing to feel like one of them is important and one of them is not important? I will say one of the most interesting meetings that I've been in as of late was about AI and the kind of absolute terror.
I'm gonna go ahead and say fuck AI. Like, I'm just gonna go. I don't always say my position, but I think that we should just ditch that one.
I think that AI is a literal demon and should be in every instance
a literal demon.
Destroyed and forgotten. I hate AI. I hate ChatGPT. I hate everything about it. Like I have been watching a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer lately, so I'm
Did she talk about AI? Did she know? Did she foresee the AI?
No, but like I keep everything that I hate right now, I just associate with demons. So I hate everything about AI, and I will go on an AI rant for you. However, one of the things that is a weird consequence of AI is that people are suddenly like, oh, maybe we should invest in the humanities so that we can understand when stuff is real or not. God. Because we have so much fake shit out there. And I was at this meeting at work and the guy was like, it's important. We actually need to start increasing humanities majors and humanities programs so that people can combat like certain aspects of AI more because that's coming. And I was like, this is weird. This is a weird moment for me because I've never heard that said by a business professor in my life. But I was glad that he seemed to have some recognition of that.
Did you see how
but I do. I think
spelled. I sent Christy a ChatGPT.
Oh my god,
they can't spell. They're bad at spelling.
You'll have seen.
You thought that would be basic.
The hands are weird. The spelling is weird. I've gotten some AI papers, and they are a hot mess. And you can tell instantly they're just bad. Just don't use it, guys. Just don't. But I think there's a kind of renewal. People are wanting to see things that are real more and more, and to see a sincerity in things. And I think that one of the most recent things, and I wanted to talk about this like just a little bit in terms of expertise, but also in this, was Cory Booker speaking for 25 hours and 5 minutes on the Senate floor, because I watched a couple of hours of it at the end. And I mean, beyond the fact that, and you and I can talk a lot and for a long time, but the idea of talking for 25 hours is horrifying. I want to sleep.
You'd lose me at the
and my
sleep.
voice
It'd get like
goes
7 a.m. and I'd be like, no, I'm
like
out.
I'd be like, I gotta take a nap real quick, and my voice goes, and standing up for that long just sounds terrible. But the thing, there are many things that impressed me about this, but one of the things that impressed me about it the most, and one of the things that I think he should be getting a ton of credit for, is that he didn't just read from the encyclopedia, which is what Strom Thurmond did. He didn't read Dr. Seuss, which is what
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz did. A lot of times when people filibuster, they just talk nonsense for a while because it doesn't matter what you're talking about as long as you're talking. He actually talked about important things. He was talking through like real aspects of history, real aspects of what's going on currently. Like every minute of that speech, that 25-hour speech was actually him being an expert in things, and he didn't use notes a ton. A lot of stuff he was like reciting quotes from memory in the last couple hours, talking about the civil rights movement and John Lewis. And he talked quite a bit about the fact that he was a black man beating the record of a segregationist and a racist in Strom Thurmond's previously held record. And it was so inspiring to hear someone who clearly knows what he's talking about, clearly has expertise in these things, being able to actually talk about them rather than kind of the rambling that we tend to hear
Yeah.
from politicians, but also like from everybody.
Someone,
You know, like
someone brought up
there's a rambling.
a criticism of him not mentioning Palestine, which I definitely acknowledge. I think, but I do think, and I brought this up too. I said,
Yeah.
here's the deal: no one is going to talk about everything, and Democrats have a lot to be criticized for,
No.
and that's certainly something to be criticized for, and
Yeah.
many more things.
And he has a lot to be criticized
Yeah,
for.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As a person. Yeah.
But my comment to that is, but he stood up and he was trying to speak truth to power. And I think we can absolutely criticize, but we should celebrate in the same breath, because the idea is that if we don't do that, who is going to stand up anymore? And these sort of people are the
Yeah.
only people who are standing between us and some sort of totalitarian. Wow, that's hard to say when you've been drinking vodka. Regime, and so I think, as academics, we appreciate and criticize, and that's what we do. We have critical thinking. But I think we have to lift up these people who are standing up, for, literally standing up for that long, and
Literally
who are
standing
saying
up.
things, because some people aren't. And if we start to lose those voices who stand, like I had someone ask me yesterday, who is Strom Thurmond again? You do history, Yeah, that's why they need to stand up.
No.
I said, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
And this is because we so easily forget.
Yeah.
And also, we are very, very shy
Yeah.
to stand. And I think, we have to have people that'll do that, because otherwise, these other people are going to run all over them, and
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
I completely agree. I think we need to be able to say that doing something, I also saw a lot of people saying it was performative, and I think that that's nonsense. One, because I think performance is important in and of itself, but also 25 hours of standing and speaking intelligently is not performative. That is sacrificial. Like that man literally did not go to the bathroom for 25 hours and 5 minutes.
Voyeuristically want to know what was happening. I don't know what.
I mean, he sacrificed his health. He sacrificed a lot of things to do that. And to do that because it sparked conversation, a lot of people tuned in. A lot of people learned a lot of things. It was actually a very helpful thing to do in its performance, But yeah, he's not perfect. It wasn't perfect. And that doesn't matter, honestly. It doesn't matter that it doesn't need to be perfect, because it is still highlighting things and doing work to, as you said, speak truth to power, to stand against stuff, to finally break a horrific record, because Strom Thurmond's speech was a filibuster to stop civil rights stuff. Like it would have stopped Cory Booker from being there.
Oh, he went, 100%. The irony of it all.
That man read the encyclopedia so that Black people couldn't drink at the same water fountains as us. So it's important that record got broken. It's important that we do things to end the evil stuff that goes on in the world. And however that looks, we have to do it in the lane that we're in. We have to do it with the expertise that we have. I can't start screaming from the rooftops about all of the ways that economics is being affected right now, but somebody else can do that. You know, you and I do what we can do in the lanes that we're in, and that's important for us to do. And it's important for everybody to pick up their own lane. You know, like, what are you qualified and able to do in this moment?
And maybe if you're wondering what your lane is, Chris, you're gonna love this. You should join our banned books club.
Yeah.
If you're
We're so excited
searching
about
for your lane at patreon.com/theology on the rocks
Mhm.
and join us. We're still planning on
Mhm.
April 22nd, which is rapidly approaching. So please do sign
Rapidly
up there.
I still highly recommend that you get your book from the public library that you
Oh,
can,
yeah.
so that we can support
For
our
your
libraries
library.
as well.
I'm going to find 1984 in the midst of.
I have a copy, but I have also requested it from my
Oh, good for
library,
you.
so just as a kind of
Do they still
yeah.
have that in Florida?
I felt like it was extra
I
important
think
for me to do
so.
it,
Here they'd be like, yeah,
given
okay.
my location. Alright, right. Yeah, so because I think it's important, one of the things that we can do is learn more about the eras that we're in and the lanes that we should pick up and the things that we can do. And so, yeah. And community is a huge aspect of that as well. And we want to keep kind of forming and developing the community that
Let's
we
make
have
some
here.
good trouble. And to quote, that
Yeah.
was John Lewis, but to quote Cory Booker, he said something that I saw repeated. You can correct me if it's not right, but it was something like, if you're not upset about America, then you don't love her enough, or something like that. If you're not upset.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a Langston
There you
Hughes
go.
quote. If you're
See,
not
this
if
is
you're not
see, this is why you
uh
keep people around.
This is why you keep people around. It's Langston Hughes, and I'm not going to get it right either. But if you're not brokenhearted by America, you
There
don't
we
love
go.
her
I
enough.
thought that one hit me
So,
for some reason. I was
yep.
like, yeah,
Oh, that was a good one. I will say, Cory Booker, it's not left or right; it's right
love
or wrong.
that.
Like, that one I liked too. Many good quotes in that speech.
All right. Well, on that
Ugh,
note, Christy,
but
should we
on
part
that note,
ways?
we shall thank you all. Be in your lanes and do the good fight and the good trouble, and
And
join our book
we'll
club.
fight. We'll fight with you. Educate us. Tell us stuff.
We're right here with you.
Tell
Yeah.
us if you want to do a speech.
Yeah.
We'll try to help.
We
And if you
we
want to
love
wear
learning.
fishnets at beer,
If you want to
tell
teach
us.
us about economics,
All right.
if anyone wants to come onto the podcast and talk about economics, we'll listen to you
And art.
and we'll agree
Art's mine.
with enthusiasm.
I'm just gonna scream art over and over again. Art. Okay. Bye, y'all.